Hello everyone and welcome back to Kids at Python. In this video, we'll see what are list comprehensions and why you should use them. Now whether you're switching from another programming language or Python is your first one, lists are one of the most basic data structures to store multiple items within a single container. So to create a simple list of n numbers from 1 to n, the simplest approach is to iterate over the range using a for loop and appending each integer into the list. So if we start writing the code of the same, it would look something like this. Now we'll iterate over the range. And append the number into the list. Now, another way to create the same list is by using lambda expressions, which will reduce the number of lines of code used. And it would look something like this. Lambda, and here we'll define our function. In this case, we are just trying to append n number. So the syntax would look something like this. But let's say we wanted to have something like squares of number. So it would be this function. And then we'll map this to a particular range. In this case, let's say we are doing this thing. And let me modify the upper code as well to print square of numbers now. And now let's see both the lists. So you can see that the results are identical, but the number of lines of code has reduced. Now, about two code samples are perfectly fine, whether we want to use for loops or we want to use lambda expressions. But there are some restrictions with each of the syntax. So for loops take more number of lines of code, whereas lambda expressions are a bit less readable. List comprehensions provide a solution to both the highlighted issues and offer a much cleaner, concise, and faster way to create lists in Python. So to create a similar list as we did earlier, now our code will look something like this. So this is our syntax of list. In this one, we'll just write the expression for a for loop like we did earlier. And just placing the variable on which we are iterating will create a list for us using list comprehensions. So let's see how our lists look like. So you can see we got the same results, but this time we have also reduced the number of lines, as well as it has become more readable to the users. And this is just one use case of list comprehensions. Let us look at some of the other use cases where list comprehensions would come handy for the users. Let's say we want to perform some operations on each element and store it into a new list. We can do it in the following way. So let's see the same piece of code for computing square of integers. And the code will be almost identical to what we have used in previous line. And now instead of num, we'll use num star num. And this will apply this operation on each element over the particular range which we have specified and generate us our list of squares. So let's see the results. So you can see that list comprehensions are way much more concise and readable format to create list. Apart from this, it can also be used to filter out certain expressions from the list. So let's say we want to apply if condition before creating the list as well. We can do that using list comprehensions too. So we'll just take this list, and let's say we want to have only those numbers in the list which are multiples of 3. So we'll write if num modulo 3 equal to 0, then only we'll append the results in the list. So let's see how it goes. So you see it is working perfectly fine. And last but not the least, we can also use this to iterate over multiple ranges. So let's say we want to have it range over 2 loops. So we can do that as well. For example, for I in range, for j in range, Let's say we want to create a tuple of the pairs. So what it will do is it will first select one I and run the j from 1 to 4, then select second I and run the code from 1 to 4 for j as well, and so on and so forth. And you can see we have all the combination of pairs available over the two loops. Now coming to the point, why should you start using list comprehensions? List comprehensions are more Pythonic way to create lists. Furthermore, they are undoubtedly more concise and readable than using for loops or lambda expressions. And if these reasons are not good enough to highlight the advantages of list comprehensions, let us compare the performance of for loops, lambda expressions, and list comprehensions. So what we'll do is we'll simply take up the code from first file of this list creation. We'll paste it here. And we'll use time module to measure the time. And to see the significant difference in performance, let me increase this count from 10 to, let's say, this much. Now our start time would be time.time, and our end time will be time.time again. So let's just print simple list creation time taken, end time minus start time. Let's just see this working first. So you saw it took considerable amount of time. Let's just see the same piece of code using lambda expressions. So let me just copy this whole thing again, paste it down for you. And this was our expression. Since we have done the same thing for square of numbers, we are keeping it same here as well. So you can see that lambda expressions are a bit faster than simple list, but it's still a huge amount of time. And let's see the results for list comprehensions. And just to prove you that lists are identical, since it would be not humanly readable to go through each element, let's just compare the list as well. So you can see that although all the three lists are identical, list comprehensions are way faster than both simple list as well as lambda expressions. So I hope now everyone watching this video will incorporate list comprehensions in their coding style. That was it from this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like on it and go ahead and subscribe the channel to see more such content in future. Also, if you have any specific topics on which you want to see a video, leave it down in the comments below. Till then, bye bye, keep learning and have fun with Python.